everybody, this is James, and today I'm bringing you the Cimarron Firearms 1858 Remington Navy Revolver. Let's take a closer look at this little beast. When Colt's patent on the revolver expired back in the 1850s, there was suddenly a ton of competition, and probably the biggest competitor to Colt in the American market was Remington. Their first big design was the Remington Beals Model 1858 service revolver, but it isn't what you see here. Today, what we know as Remington revolvers and the replicas, they're all referred to as 1858s, but that's really incorrect. The same basic design is true, but small improvements were made, like to the hammer, the webbed loading lever, and the forcing cone being cut back compared to the original model. What you see here is actually the new model series that was first introduced in 1862 at the start of the American Civil War. What we have is the new model Army revolver in .44 caliber up top. On the bottom is the new model Navy in .36 caliber on the bottom. The Army was the second most popular handgun of the American Civil War, but by comparison, the Navy was produced in relatively small numbers, only about 14,000 of them, until production of both types ended in 1875. It's also ironic that the primary buyer of this model was actually the Army. This Navy is made by Uberti in Italy, and it's imported by Cimarron Firearms out of Fredericksburg, Texas. As you can see, it's a slightly smaller and lighter handgun than the Army, with a 7.5-inch barrel and in the lighter .36 caliber. The gun is a solid frame revolver, and one of the first of its type actually, and it wears a milled notch rear sight and a dovetailed blade front sight on the octagonal barrel. The gun is single action, requiring the hammer to be cocked for each shot, and the pistol comes apart by pulling the loading lever down, dropping the base pin, and rolling out the cylinder. This is the method of this assembly that was actually part of the original 1858 Beals patent date that we're so familiar with today. Historically, paper cartridges would be used to load the Navy revolver, but today we're working with loose powder and bullet. With the hammer at the half cock, pour a charge of powder down each chamber and follow that up with a bullet. Rotate the cylinder and then press that bullet down with the loading lever until it seats. After you do that, for all 6 rounds, you can elect to use some lubrication. In this case, I'm just using Crisco, and this helps with keeping the black powder fouling soft so you can keep shooting for longer periods of time, but it's not entirely necessary. After you do all that, you have to put a cap on each percussion nipple, and the gun does hold 6 rounds, and it can be safely carried by indexing the hammer to one of these safety notches machined between the chambers. Alright, let's see how well I can do on these clay pigeons. 30 grains of black powder, 380 round ball. Oh, I missed it. Well, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Well, it looks like in terms of accuracy, the 1858 Remington Navy from Cimarron actually does quite well. I have one outside, the black here, but all right here, single-handed while working with the camera at 10 yards. That isn't bad at all. I was able to get good groups. I was about 25 yards. I didn't really shoot past that for no particular reason. There are a couple things I really love about this gun. Now, this is a Remington revolver, and this enclosed design actually isn't very good for black powder fouling. all that crud gets built up into the action to the point where you can't work the gun anymore. But we're 50 rounds in, and we're going just fine. Perfectly fine, actually. That is about as good as I've ever gotten out of Remington. In fact, this rivals a good Colt revolver in terms of getting past the crud of black powder and keeping on shooting. Another thing I like about this revolver is that it actually digests in the cylinder up to 30 grains of black powder. Most 36s you're going to get 15 to 24, perhaps. That extra bit might help if you're really wanting a 36 to do a bigger job than it should be. But overall, this is a great little gun. I like that the front sight is actually dovetailed so you can actually move it around. Most replicas will just have a straight bead here and you can't really adjust it. And despite having fixed sights, the gun is pretty accurate. And even though it does have the legendary Colt grip, it does point very well. It isn't too heavy, but it is just heavy enough to hold down on target. Overall, there isn't much bad I can say about this gun. If anything, I actually wish that the Remington Navy got a reputation for itself instead of the Army revolver. The Army revolver is perfect, it's great. It's just I wish the smoother shooting Navy could get a little bit more press. And in .36 caliber, we really are talking about a gun that is easy to shoot well, very efficient when it comes to black powder, low recoil, very non-intimidating, but as you can see, a whole lot of fun. I'll see you guys next time.